This is a Reconstructionist radio production. Please visit kuiper.org for more resources. Disciple the Nations by Stephen C. Perks. Copyright 2021. The Kuiper Foundation, Taunton, England. Narrated by Scott Tucker. Preface. This book has its origin in a talk I gave to a group of 24 people in late July 2021. The talk consisted of a slightly shorter version of Part 2 of this book, quote, How to Disciple the Nations, end quote. All the materials in Part 1 was made available to the group as preparatory reading before the meeting took place and had been previously published online as short articles. The purpose of the talk and the meeting following it was to stimulate discussion about how to create an apostolic community that can act as a catalyst around which a wider local Christian community can develop, and from which missionaries can go out to found other apostolic communities that will reproduce in the same way. The purpose of this vision of apostolic mission and Christian community is the seeking of the kingdom of God and the fulfillment of the Great Commission, i.e., the discipling of the nations, and this remains the purpose of this book. The most important part of this book is Part 2, Section 5, quote, How to Create Christian Communities, Apostolic Foundations, end quote. Everything else in the argument of Part 2 leads up to this. But in order to understand my argument in context here, it is important to read what comes before it. Likewise, the argument of Part 2 presupposes the reading of the preparatory material in Part 1 of this book. There is some overlap in this material since it was originally published as individual short articles. Nevertheless, in order to get the best out of Part 2, the material in Part 1 should be read first. I should like to express my thanks to Randy Spurger, Lester Gonzalez, and Jason Lawton, with whom I have spent many hours discussing the material in Part 2, Section 5, quote, How to Create Christian Communities, Apostolic Foundations, end quote, and which has been very helpful in bringing my understanding of this subject into greater focus, thereby enabling me to see and articulate the issues involved with much greater clarity. I should also like to thank Scott Tucker, Yavor Rusinov, and Mark Kreitzer for reading earlier drafts of the book and providing me with some critical feedback and encouragement. Stephen C. Perks, November 2021.